Hey everybody, know it's been a hot minute for a while since I made a video, but it's kind of how I roll. I just speak my mind when it's time to speak my mind, and that's it. Got a lot of shit on my mind at the moment, and I just want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about Republicans, Democrats, Trump supporters, progressives, owning the libs, the Elon Musk bullshit. I have my personal views on it. They might not align with a lot of people, but it's my opinion. Who gives a shit? Right? And if you're watching this video and you want to see me do more shit, hit me up. Hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Shit. I'd do more videos if I knew more people were watching, but there's a few things I want to talk about. So, we're going to start off. The first one is just kind of the Democrats. And I don't have, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have issues with people that are trying to better the lives of others. But there are some people, they just don't want their lives to be better. They're stuck in their mindset, and that's the end of it. You just let it go. They don't want to be involved in your bullshit. Don't force them into their bullshit. And which comes to another thing that the liberals do. And I seen this today. Robert Reich, who was a member of Obama's administration, he'd made a post about trickle-down economics. It's not worked in 30 years. It's not going to work today. It's not going to work, period. It's just not set up to benefit the people below, the rich and the powerful. Just the way it is. So, I got something in my eyes, guys. I'm sorry. And sorry if my office is kind of a wreck. I'm kind of in the middle of remodeling my house. So, but anyways, getting on track. So he's going on about trickle-down economics, and he posts quite frequently on Facebook and Blue Sky and Twitter. I mean, the guy is very smart, financial genius, but he's preaching to a crowd that doesn't give a shit. Which brings up the Republicans. It's just like the Republicans are not about anything that the Republican Party was built on anymore. It's like no matter if you get into a discussion about anything, it's about owning the libs. That's it. That's all they want to do is own the liberals. Yeah, we own you. Even if it hurts them, with the veterans getting fired from their jobs and the congressmen that represent them not giving a shit. And then you got somebody in there who has no understanding of how government works, and they're making changes in the U.S. government and then lying about how much money they saved, and then coming back and, they fucked this up and they fucked that up and we got to hire a bunch of people back and etc. Hang on a second. So yeah, the party became about owning the liberals. That's it. That's all they want to do. So he's going on, and I sat there and I made a comment, and I'm like, dude, you're wasting your breath, or keystrokes, whatever. They don't give a shit. You know why? Because they get more enjoyment out of watching you try to spread your message, even if it's helping everybody, not one particular political party. They don't care. They are still high on Trump winning a second term. They don't give a fuck. And until it starts to impact them substantially, like you're seeing at some of these town halls where people are freaking out. And, and in Republican districts. And then some of the Democrats went to them, and then, the people are after the Democrats sitting there saying, oh, you're not fighting enough, you're not fighting enough. And it's true, they're not. So here's a simple thing. Both of y'all just need to shut the fuck up. That's it. You bring nothing to the table, okay? The Democrats really don't have a spine anymore. They don't, honestly, they could take some cues from Trump, and I'm not saying they need to go to the full extreme, but they need to, seriously call out the bullshit. It's like one of the things, I went back and watched the presidential debates, and, the one with Biden, which was a disaster for him, and the one with Kamala, and I'm sitting there going, you didn't do shit. You didn't you didn't push back. See, like, I was sitting there and Trump was telling these lies about the cats and the dogs, and she's just like, and I'm sitting there going, why the hell didn't you just... the way he walked over Biden in the one debate years ago, back when they were running in for the 2020, man, I would have taken that opportunity to talk right over him and going, where are you getting your bullshit from? Who's telling you this? Who's the police chief or whoever he quoted? And just like, show us the proof. You know what? You talk a lot of game, show us the proof. Same thing with her, right? She's talking about all this, this, and this. Nobody brings receipts. And this is what Americans need to start asking for, are the fucking receipts. Okay? Both sides, it isn't going to matter. I'm probably wasting my breath right now, but the Democrats need to man the fuck up. Period. You guys need to find your balls, let them drop, get some spine, backbone, for the women, put your titties in the game. Sorry. But you need to do something that is going to show something, because right now you look weak. You do. You look weak, right? And you're not defending anything you're doing. You're just like, oh, I'm sorry, it happens. If I was a Democratic candidate, right, and I do lean politically left, although I'm a moderate, like I said, there's things on both sides I agree with, but I just tend to lean a little more left. You got to get out there, and you can't placate people like, empathy is nice to have, but it doesn't win you fucking elections. You got to go out there, and if this guy, whoever you're running against, if it's Donald Trump or Marco Rubio or whoever, and they're spouting bullshit, you need to call out their bullshit, period. And if the media is not going to help you do that, then you need to bring the receipts to the table, throw them on the table, and find whatever medium is going to print it. And then you have to promote it, because in this 24-hour news cycle, stuff's going to get forgotten in a day. Now, the one thing that, so the Democrats have to find a backbone. The Republicans really need to make up their fucking mind on what they're doing, right? So right now, here's your problem. And it's been discussed in the media and some other avenues. Tesla was always a left-leaning, progressive, we're saving the environment, we're doing this and they're doing that. Not realizing how stupid that sounds, because, where's the electricity coming from that charges your car? Most likely a fossil fuel. So you're not really doing shit. Until, there are ways, I'm sure in other countries that rely on solar and wind power, you are doing something more for the environment. But in America, we're not the worst when it comes to dirty energy. Oh, sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. I apologize. We're not the worst when it comes to dirty energy. There's countries probably far more filthier than we are. But the simple fact is, you were doing nothing for the environment. Because while you think, I'm not using fossil fuels, well, your fucking battery and everything else, and all this shit that has to be recycled over time. And then you got the right, I'm never going to own an electric car, fuck Elon Musk, blah, blah. But now they flipped the script. Because Elon came to work for the government, and he started spouting a bunch of bullshit of all this money he saved, which he can't bring receipts for. But it's funny how all the government contracts he's canceled relating to tech, well, guess what went in to fill that gap? This is pretty easy, but I'll let you figure it out. Yes, Starlink. Who owns Starlink? Who has the most to gain from what's going on? But again, to the people on the right, they're not going to care what I'm saying. Even though I'm kind of in the middle of this and I'm criticizing both sides, they're not going to care. They're owning the libs. And that's their biggest problem. That's going to be their downfall in the next election cycle, is they're too focused with owning the libs. And there are some that are standing up at these town halls and they are going absolutely ballistic. Like there was this one with this guy in North Carolina. And he was actually, it was funny because when Hurricane Helene devastated, the western part of North Carolina, and I'm telling you, if you don't remember it, there are videos all over YouTube. Look up Asheville, North Carolina, Hurricane Helene. Devastated. That area was fucked 6 ways from Sunday. It was this, and Trump was saying things that Biden's department's not doing this, not doing that. This same Republican congressman, something Edwards was his name, I can't remember, but he went on the record and said everything President Trump is saying is untrue. The Biden administration and FEMA are here. They're delivering what they can. Congress needed to appropriate more funds, which they, because the Republicans had enough to hold things up, weren't allowing things to go through from the House. Because once it got to the Senate, it would pass easy because Kamala was the deciding vote. If it became a tie. She was 51. But the Republicans, having more control over the House, could actually block things. And they did. They blocked a lot of funding. But as soon as Trump got in, they were quick to shell out the money. But what money was available from FEMA? Because remember, they just not dealing with North Carolina. Fucking Florida got rocked. So FEMA had money to deal with Florida. They didn't expect what happened in North Carolina. So what they had left, they immediately shifted focus and threw it into North Carolina, and then went looking for money, and nobody would give it to him. So this congressman who called out Trump for his lies suddenly was at this town hall, and people were calling him out on it, saying, hey, 1 minute there you're calling Trump out saying he's a liar, and these are his own constituents, which is a primarily red district. And they go, and now you're supporting, and he goes, well, everybody likes what Doge is doing. The audience went fucking nuts. No, no, no. And some veteran stood up and said, Elon and his crew fired me from my job. And I wasn't a probationary employee. I've been working at Veterans Affairs doing da-da-da. And he says, you don't give an F about me, and da-da-da. And the congressman just said that, pointed to the sheriff, who was off to the stage on his right, and said, and was pointing at the guy, and made them force him out the door. A United States veteran, right? Some of the crowd cheered that he was getting kicked out, and these are supposed to be the patriotic right wing, but the majority of the audience went fucking ballistic. He's a veteran. What the hell are you doing? Right? And he looks at the crowd and says, now you know why we don't want to do these town halls. Are you fucking kidding me? That's your answer? And then you have these talking heads on both the left and the right. And I'm going to call these motherfuckers out. David Pakman, Luke Beasley, Adam Mockler, not so much. I kind of dig on Adam. He's cool. Brian Tyler Cohen. Again, there's more of this softball shit. They make it sound tough with some of the words they're using, but they're really not. They're like, oh, we're going to fight Trump. We're going to fight Trump. No, you're not. You sound like a pussy when you're saying it. Right? So if I'm in their chair, and if I really do care about America, I'm very not happy with the way things are going. And as a member of a family that had aunts or not so much aunts, but uncles and a grandfather who had served in, everything from World War I to, the Korean conflict. And then I had cousins who served in Desert Storm. It really bothers me when veterans get mistreated. It's one of the big things. There's things I really support. I really do. I am not a huge supporter of law enforcement as a whole because there's still too many bad apples. Even with body cams, they can switch them off, mute the audio. I don't like that. The whole point is to hold you accountable to your actions, and until those cameras cannot be tampered with, I will never trust what a cop says. And I've had to go to traffic court and things, and I said to the officer, I said, where's your body cam footage? Oh, my camera was malfunctioning. Oh, how convenient. And I said, well, thank God I run a dash cam. And I said, so he does his testimony, and then, I play the video, and they contradict each other, and I walk out, I'm a happy man. Well, but I'm not afraid to call it out. And as the one magistrate says, you're very argumentative. And I said, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? I'm supposed to argue for my innocence. I'm supposed to argue my defense, but yet you're calling me argumentative. I said, yes, maybe I'm a little more fiery than, a lawyer who may, approach it differently, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a person that, because I have no trust in people like him, decided I need to show my side of the story as well, and you need to see it objectively. So if I offended you in any way, it's an apology. I didn't mean to offend you in any way, and I do have a lot of respect for law and order, contrary to what people say about those of us that tend to lean left. And I actually said this to the judge as I was wearing a vote blue button, because it was around election time. And but I said, I can't support somebody like this. And I had an uncle who was a chief of police in a very small town in northeast Pennsylvania, and he couldn't stand cops who would lie. He had fired quite a few from his little small town police department. It was 4 people. And he had a high turnover rate because he said, you're not getting into this line of work to exact revenge or to frame people or put people in a bad light, just because you're worried that you're not doing your job. Your job is to serve and protect the public, not alienate them. Love my Uncle Robert. Hope he rests in peace. But, I had family, again, that were veterans. And to see what's a party that's like, oh, we're patriotic and blah, 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 and suddenly they're supporting throwing veterans out of their jobs, cutting their benefits, making cuts to the VA, which affects veterans. I mean, and then the same people that say they're pro-law and order, but had no problem with January 6th defendants getting pardoned after most of them were, a good amount were only commuted sentences. Not a lot. More people got pardons than commuted sentences. But the ones that had commuted sentences did some pretty shady shit. The ones who hadn't gone to court or trial yet, that actually had assault charges against police officers, things of that nature, just got to walk scot-free. Video footage of them beating on a cop with a flagpole, whatever. They got to walk free, and nobody has a problem with this. But just as an example, Michael Vick with the dogfighting thing did his 3 years in prison. People still won't forgive that motherfucker. It's like, so we're saying we have more respect for dogs than we do cops? I mean, I get it. I'm an animal lover. I've got cats. I do like dogs. I just prefer cats. But seriously, what in the hell are you doing? And then you got the other part of this is that the Republicans are suddenly, again, getting back a little bit, supporting Elon and supporting the electric car industry. Like, what in the fuck? Did I wake up and like somehow we went into an alternate dimension? And like I said, these talking head guys, they're saying a lot of stuff. Well, we got to stay up for progressive media, and, we don't take all those payoffs like corporate media. Yeah, but you ain't got the balls to deliver the message. You're doing it with so much empathy, and sometimes you can be empathetic. You don't need to always show your empathy. It's just like, look, I can say I'm very empathetic about what's happening to the people of Ukraine. I am. I feel they're getting hosed royally. But I'm not going to say it in a way that, oh, bless my little liberal tree-hugging heart, because that's what somebody would say to me. I'd be like, no, fuck that. You've got to take that attitude and apply it to your politics. And this is why Trump kind of got away with it, because he just went out there and went, bam, it's in your face. Even though everything he was, well, I'm not saying everything, most of what he said was complete and total bullshit. By the way, lower prices on day one. How's that working out for you? And how's that stock market working out for you? 4,000 points down since he took office? That's not the sign of a financial genius. I'm glad I dumped out of my stuff, because I sure as hell would not want to take the hit. But don't you worry, when he crashes it, I'll be buying more. You know, and I'm not a rich man by any stretch of the reason. I can't go out and buy 1 million shares of Microsoft, Tesla, whatever. But what I do buy, if Tesla, say, drops down below 100, I'll buy 1,000 shares. Cost me, $10,000. It shoots back up to $200, $300 a share. Well, my 10,000 just became 20,000, 30,000. Same thing with crypto. It's just like the crypto guys. Trump's going to do this for crypto, and they're fucking losing their shirt right now. There was like they were planning on a bull run, and a massive one at that, especially after Trump won the election. And it's just crypto's just. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, I'll buy at the lower prices. There are a few things I got into that I believe in, and I'm just buying up because the prices are super cheap. And if it does happen to turn around, I'm going to make a nice profit. If it doesn't, it ain't costing me shit. I could buy 1 billion tokens for this one thing that I'm into, which is a new blockchain. And it didn't even cost me $100. And if that thing drops 2 or 3 zeros, I think it's 7 zeros right now, before its first whole number, if it drops 3 of those zeros, I'm in the money. It gets up to $1 a share. I currently sit on over 190 billion of those. And because it's a blockchain, if it becomes a successful blockchain like Ethereum or BNB or some of the others, and it shoots up past $1, just do the math. Can you wait it out? Yeah, I can wait it out. I have a good job, so I can wait it out. I'm not relying on crypto to make me rich. It's a long-term investment. And I have said there's people that invest in crypto, especially this one with the freaking dog. Shiba Inu, I think you're wasting your money. It's not going to go anywhere. You're just going to lose your shirt. But anyways, getting back to these goofy talking heads, I'm sorry I get a little off tangent on some stuff comes, I had too much caffeine today. And not to mention with the remodeling of the house, it's freaking 11 o'clock at night. I should be in bed right now because I have a meeting at 5 in the morning because I'm dealing with clients that are in another country. And it'll only be like 10 or 11 o'clock their time, so I'm really, pushing my luck. And I'm already a horrible sleeper as it is, but yeah, these Brian Tyler Cohns, these Jack Coachinella, or what I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, or David Pakman, or, even the Pondering Politics guy. I mean, I watch these shows, I'm curious, because they're covering a lot of things that your mainstream media is not covering. But grow a set, for Christ's sakes. It's like, if I knew I could reach a wider audience, I would basically tell it like it is. And that's why I don't mind criticizing the left, the right, the middle. The left has no fucking balls. And it's kind of a shame because I'm sitting there and I'm Generation X, so we just kind of don't give a fuck who we offend. We never did, never will. We're the kids that, it's kind of cliche at this point. We drank out of garden hoses and we were out playing until the street lights came on. We were fighting with sticks, making mud cupcakes and pies, and, having Roman candle fights in the middle of the street. Are we emotionally disconnected? Yeah, pretty much. I'm raising a 9-year-old son right now, and God help the world, because he's Gen Alpha, and they're saying that because so many Gen Xers are raising young kids, but as grandparents, I didn't have kids until very later in life. Well, they're calling these Gen X kids that are ended up being, or these alpha kids that are being raised by their Gen X grandparents, and some parents like myself, that Generation Alpha is going to be the next Generation X, because I do everything with my son that I did. You know, it's like I tell him don't be afraid to drink out of the garden hose. You're thirsty, you get a drink. That's it, plain and simple. You know, if we find two small branches that are broken off, we'll play sword fights. You know, and you know, now the world's a little different. I mean, I don't let them wander out like our parents did. Like, I could be 6-7 miles away from the house, but I better be home when the streetlights came on. I'm not comfortable doing that, and I was doing that shit at a young age. Like, I'm talking 6, 7. You know, my son's 9, and I'm just like, yeah, just kind of stay around the house. You know, it's almost like my one friend growing up, or no, it wasn't one friend. Eddie Griffin told the story. He said when you grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, where he's from, you were allowed to go from that end of the block to that end of the block, and that's it. You know, and I mean, he didn't live in the greatest neighborhood, but that was all the play area they were allowed. Well, it's kind of funny how it's come back now that literally, I told my son, you can go up as far as there and go up as far as there if you go outside. Anything else, you better come and talk to me. You know, if you have to go to your friend's house that's on the next block, I better be asked about it, and I want a phone call that you made it there from that kid's mother or whoever. I don't care. I just want to know where the hell you are every minute of the day. He's my only son, so maybe I'm a little more overprotective, but I'm not raising, you know, a pussy. I have a son that, you know, he stands up for girls when they're being bullied in school, and it wasn't that long ago that he was in school and some kid kept poking this girl, and she told him to stop, and they were doing whatever activities they were doing. And my son's a high-functioning autistic kid, so he's put in classrooms for kids that are autistic but are high-functioning, because they have low-functioning and they have high-functioning. And he is really good at science. And he was working on something, and the kid just kept annoying that girl, and she got mad and upset, and my son turned to him and said, "Stop." She said, "No, it means no." And the kid, you know, said, whatever, and my son stood up and just hauled off and open-face slapped him. And of course the teachers and the teachers, they'd see it and they run over and say, "Jackson, what are you doing?" And Jackson, you know, kind of looked right at him, and, you know, they saw what was going on and they didn't stop it, which kind of pissed me off. But they asked Jackson, "Why did you slap him?" And he said, "Well, he was being a bully, and sometimes you just gotta slap a hoe." And I'm just like, oh my Lord. So of course I get the call from the principal and everybody else, and they said, "Do you know what your son said?" And I'm like, "I heard from the teacher, yes." You know, where do you think he would have learned something like that? And I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. That's something I would have said back in the day when somebody was acting up. You know, I said, somebody got out of line, you smacked them across the face with an open-handed slap, or backhanded if you really wanted to, you know, embarrass the shit out of them. And it's like, don't be a hoe. And, you know, he most likely got that from me. But I said, what I'm not hearing you guys say is that how you should be thankful that he stood up for somebody being bullied, which is your job to prevent. And there's 4 of you in the classroom, because there's 20 autistic kids in the class, all high functioning and all have, you know, can flip a switch in a heartbeat. And I said, and you're sitting there and you admit you saw this kid annoying that girl and she was saying stop, and you said nothing, and it took a 9-year-old to walk up and smack the shit out of this kid, and that kid's parents were pissed, before you do anything. I'm like, am I missing something here? Because back in my day, yes, bullying was a thing, but if you sat in class and deliberately annoyed people, we had corporal punishment back then. So yeah, when they got rid of that, it really tied their hands a little bit. But man, I met the paddle quite often in the principal's office, because I just didn't give a fuck. I come from a family that just was like, suck it up, buttercup. Life isn't easy. Anyways, look, fuck these talking heads. Democrats, you need to stop with your freaking, oh, the trickle-down economics isn't going to work and this isn't going to do that. Nobody gives a fuck. It's obvious they don't care. The only people that care are already on your side, and I don't see a lot of them getting up to do anything about it. And I don't see you bringing receipts. And even when you do bring receipts, you make them so fucking complicated that a conservative voter in the Midwest who doesn't understand macroeconomics, you got to dumb it down for people that don't understand macroeconomics. And you could say, okay, well, if this person's making $10 billion a year and they're paying little to no taxes, we'll say they're paying, out of that 10 billion, they paid 100 million in taxes. We'll just say they did that. And the object of trickle down was that they were supposed to invest in their businesses and their employees, which means you would see raises that would help elevate your status. Well, they're not giving you raises that match inflation, right? And that's both the right and the left. And this started with the Reagan administration with what they call voodoo economics. So save your bullshit. The right doesn't care because you can't make it simplified enough for them to understand. Again, and it's not an insult to their education or comprehension level. It's just you're putting all these formulas and how man, nobody gives a fuck. Put it in simpler fucking terms. Okay? The majority of the United States can read and comprehend on a 9th grade level. That's it. It doesn't matter if you have a bachelor's degree or a high school diploma. The average reading and comprehension is 9th grade. And what's really sad, and I'm not meaning this in a negative way, and I found this out about 2 decades ago, like around the late 90s, early 2000s, that the conservative part, the Bible Belt, their average reading and comprehension level is 6th grade. And a lot of that came from all the cuts to the education budgets in the schools, which makes me wonder if the right is so, well, we want to be top-notch in education. Well, why are you cutting the Department of Education? The Department of Education helps develop the curricula that goes to the schools. Are you just not happy with the type of curricula they're developing? I'm like, fine. You know what? Keep critical race theory out. Teach the basics of what the country was built on. And don't sugarcoat it. Just say, look, a bunch of people came over at some point. They didn't want to be dealing with the way the Europeans and the English are running things. They came over, tried to set up a new colony. We went to war over it, blah, blah, blah. But we had slaves. Okay? Did we mistreat those slaves? Yes, we did. And you just kind of have to deal with that. And people need to accept that well, that's just part of American history. You got to teach everything about American history, you know, how we gained our independence, you know, what they teach you about our founding fathers, man, doesn't even skim the fucking mountain of information on, you know, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, you know, Thomas Adams, I mean, even Abraham Lincoln, you know, and it's just like, you look, I don't give a fuck 1 point if you're trans, gay, lesbian, whatever, man. If you want to lick pussy, lick pussy. If you want to eat dick, eat dick. I don't care if you want to chop off your Willy Wonka and add a vagina to yourself, rock on. I don't give a fuck. You know why I don't care? Because it doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't. It's none of my business what you do. Okay? But you cannot expect a country that is built on such common certain values, especially the Bible Belt area, to just accept, well, I'm going to cut off my Willy Wonka and then I'm going to become a woman and get, you know, surgery to grow tits and all this other shit and tell them you're going to eat it. They don't have to eat it. And most likely, because it's such a huge shock to their system, it's going to really roil some people and get them really heated. I'm from the East Coast. We're pretty much leave me the fuck alone, right? I grew up just outside of New York City. I don't give a shit what you do until it affects me. And you being transgender, um, gay, straight, bisexual, whatever, I don't give a shit. All right? My concern is if you get hired at a job, can you do the job? Like, can you do what I do for a living and do it effectively and efficiently enough that it isn't going to cause a problem for the business unit I represent or any business units that have to interact with your business units? And do I have to come in there and clean up your fucking mess? Okay? And if you do that as a man dressed like a woman, I don't care. But if you're telling me that you have the experience to do this, I'm expecting to see you do this. And that's it. So, anyways, seriously, Democrats, stop trying to fucking educate the Republicans. They don't give a shit. They're still in the own the liberal phase. And as they're finding out that they're getting fucked over just like everybody else, they just got to learn the lesson. And you're going to have to face the facts that you're going to have to learn the lesson. They're going to have to learn a lesson. And, you know, the same thing with us. You know, as I said, I'm a moderate, but I lean left. You know, it's just like the Democrats look like a fucking joke right now. It's like, you know, and they always say, oh, you're just a liberal pussy. I mean, they're fucking, the Democrats are living up to that term perfectly at the moment, you know, and, you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know, I like Bernie Sanders, I really do. I believe he's genuine in what he believes and what he wants to do for America, but he's on this tour with AOC, and I don't dislike AOC, I just think she's too green. And she's sitting there talking about, oh, but, you know, she just comes off with this vibe. It's just like, well, you know, if we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, the world is going to change. No, it fucking isn't. It ain't going to matter, man. You could be Bill Cosby trying to tell everybody have a Coke and a smile, you know. And, you know, or we're going to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, or whatever the fuck the theme song used to be back then. It's never going to happen. There's a few things we're going to align on as a population. One is we all want to make money. And two is we all know the money is the root of all evil. Plain and simple. And there's a good swath of people that believe in an eye for an eye. Believe in the death penalty. Believe in the right to bear arms. But you're not going to get every one of those people to suddenly side with people that are just like, oh, let's just have a big group hug. Man, fuck the group hug. You know, it's like the Republicans are one side, the Democrats on the other. And it's funny, blue and red. It's like the Crips and the Bloods. If these motherfuckers would start throwing flags like they do out in LA, that shit would be hilarious. Man, here's my flag, motherfucker. And, you know, I was sitting there and I was watching this video about a Crip on YouTube. And I'm sitting there and he's showing the rags, and I'm like, and this is a little while ago, and I said, holy fuck, that's the Democrats and the Republicans right there, the Blood versus the Crips. The fucking Crips hate the Bloods hate the Crips. That's all it is a gigantic fucking gang war right now, you know? And this is why the two-party system doesn't work, because you're always going to be fighting with each other. Yes, there's a few of us that share in ideals and what our feeling would make our existence in this country better. And the Bloods and the Crips have the same thing. They'll come together every once in a while. They'll call a truce. Or they come together on a single issue and they're just like, we're strong. It ain't about the Bloods and the Crips. It's then about us as a whole. And we do that, but we spent more time feuding just like the Bloods and the Crips. So the next time you're sitting there watching the right fight with the left, accept the fact that the left is never going to sell the right on their message, and the right's never going to sell the left on their message. Let me try that. Neither side is going to sell the other on their 100% complete message. There will be some parts of the message that will apply both and bring some unity, but it isn't enough. And you definitely have one party that doesn't have the backbone to do it. And then you have another that's running and hiding when they're facing the music of their fucking actions. And so, what the fuck are you going to do? You know? But yeah, just Democrats shut the fuck up. Republicans shut the fuck up. Trump supporters shut the fuck up. Elon supporters shut the fuck up. I'm sorry, that means fucking Nazi salute. You are not going to tell me that him doing that is not a Nazi salute. That is a fucking Nazi salute if I have ever seen one. That's exactly what he did, and he's suffering the consequences for it. Okay? Do I think people should be burning down Tesla dealerships and vandalizing cars? No. Do I feel sorry that it's happening? No. Sorry. You side with something that we fought in a world war to get rid of, and you suddenly throw that up like it's no big deal, and don't give me that shit. Oh, it means I'm sending my heart out to you. This is sending your heart out, is open, your hand open. This is Sig Heil, motherfucker. That's exactly what Elon is trying to say. Okay? I don't give a shit. When you look at what he's supporting in terms of the political parties in England and in Germany, those are Nazi or white nationalist parties. Okay? Now, I can actually say this, and it's something that racist people usually say, but I'm not really saying it in a racist way, because Elon technically was an illegal immigrant. And yes, he got citizenship to the United States, but he stayed in the States illegally while he did that. He did not go through all the proper channels that they're calling for all these Mexicans, Venezuelans, whatever to do. So a little bit of hypocrisy there. But I don't like the fact that Elon meddles in the government. He's not doing anything. He's just stroking his own ego and trying to make some money with Starlink thing. Motherfucker, go back to Africa. Sorry, you know, white people say that to black people all the time. Well, this is a white person telling another white person that's from Africa, go the fuck back to Africa. Seriously, I am done listening to you clowns. I've had it up to here. I just don't give a shit anymore. You are not going to tell me that you fought and fought and fought. Well, electric cars are this, electric car, blah, blah, blah. I'm not giving up my gas truck. All of a sudden, you're on the fucking side of the electric car. What in the... Oh, my Lord. You know, I'm just kind of like... I would love to get into politics. I don't think anybody could handle me. And I'll be honest with you, I would violate the code of decorum in the House, Senate. I just can't. I just couldn't. Mr. Speaker, may I? Man, fuck you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to speak my mind, because the last time I checked, the Constitution says freedom of speech. Sit down, shut the fuck up, and you're going to listen to what I have to say. That's what I'm going to do if I was ever in political office. But I'll never get in, because I am not willing to kiss the ass of either party to project me into that. Nor do I have the finances to sustain a campaign. And there is no way where I live that I'm going to have some kind of, oh, let's get together because I want to talk about how I want to represent you in your district and you're going to love me. Because right now, this is not the time to do that. Maybe in 2 years it'd be something nice, but I would really love to get into government. But the simple fact of the matter is we're always going to have partisan politics. And until people get over, I'm going to own this person or I'm going to own this person, and both sides are guilty of it, nothing's going to fly. We are going to be so fucking discombobulated and dysfunctional. It's sad. And I remember growing up that, I mean, politics were always politics, but the first time I was able to vote for a president was the Clinton-Bush and Ross Perot election in 1992. And where was it, 91 into 90? I fucking don't remember. Yeah, there was people who liked George Bush, there's people who liked Ross Perot, and there's people who liked Bill Clinton. But it was never like this. You know, you see somebody walking around with a Bush shirt, even back when George W. Bush was president, and nobody was happy with him, especially after the economy collapsed. But you could just say, hey, well, I don't agree with his shit, blah, blah, blah. Now, holy fuck, man. If I even wear anything that slights Trump in any way. In fact, I have a sticker on the back of my Jeep, Grand Cherokee, that says, I don't know who Brandon is, but fuck Trump. And somebody took a black Sharpie and colored in the F and then the MP on Trump, and it says True. Well, I think if people still read the top of the sticker, they kind of get where it's coming from. But I was so pissed that somebody edited my sticker, which means they're infringing on my freedom of speech, that I went out and ordered even more shit. And I'm going to decorate the whole back window, including with Calvin pissing on Trump's fucking hair weave, and more fuck Trump and fuck you for voting for him stuff, because now I'm angry that somebody took it upon themselves saying, I want free speech, but not you, because you don't agree with me. That's what I think of you, bitch. So please let me run into the motherfucker that did that to my sticker. If they would have vandalized my car, it would have been game on. I would have been searching every motherfucking video camera where it happened, because it happened in a shopping plaza I frequent. I'm telling you, I'm, because that happened to me once. One time, some dude keyed my truck up, because it had a fuck Trump sticker during the first time, and he got caught on security camera. And thank God the security folks at the store called the cops before. Well, I kind of found out just as the cops were arriving, but I wanted to just tear this guy apart. But I let it go through the judicial system. DA actually listened to me, and it worked out in my favor. Yeah, I was out the money to fix the side of the truck because I didn't want to turn it into my insurance, because where I live, I hit a lot of deer, so I was putting in claims. Like every year where I live, it's just freaking a deer jump out, bam, hit one. Just like I destroyed more cars hitting deer between 2016 and 2021 than probably anybody I know. And it's just like, people are like, well, why do you live out there? And I'm like, because I don't like people and I want to be alone. I just don't want to socialize with people anymore. It's just become to the point where so vitriolic that, somebody's going to say something and I can't control my emotions. You say something that pisses me off or I have an opinion on it, sorry, you're going to hear it. Whether you like it or not, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to give a fuck now. I didn't give a fuck 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'm not going to give a fuck when I'm old, gray, and, well, I'm already starting to get the grays, but I'm not going to give a fuck when I'm sitting in the rocking chair at the old folks home, sipping on my bums because all my teeth done fell out. They're sitting there, it's like, I don't care. You're missing the pudding entree. Don't give a fuck. If I wanted pudding, I can go make it myself. But you kind of get the gist. Anyways, look, the point of this 40 plus minute message is the left need to fucking man the fuck up. You need to stop trying to sell your bullshit. The right doesn't care right now. They're not going to care until it starts seriously affecting their wallets and they're in jeopardy of losing their jobs, losing their home and their cars. Then you're going to see a fucking change. But you guys are never going to gain the respect of a good swath of America because you look like pussies. Okay? You really do. All right? Yes, you can champion the electric car industry. You can't shove it down people's fucking throats. Okay? I try to do my part to be green. I did things around my house to consume less energy. Am I giving up my pickup truck or my Jeep Grand Cherokee or my fucking Mustang? Hell no, I'm not giving that shit up. Bullshit. I've been involved with muscle cars since I was 16 years old. I'm not going to stop now just because the planet. Yeah, fuck the planet. I didn't fuck it up. How many years went by with the pollution going in? And did you notice? Here's something interesting. If you want to look something up, just to show how much there has been some good of the Clean Air Act. Go look at if you can find video footage or pictures of the New York City skyline before catalytic converters were put on cars. Then go look at the skyline a couple years after catalytic converters were put on cars. Huge fucking difference. Huge difference. So yes, there are some benefits. What did it cost us along the way? Horsepower for one. I remember the 80s muscle car. Oh, well, this V8 puts out 150 horsepower. It's like they're fucking 3-cylinders putting out 150 horsepower now, you know. But we didn't have 8-cylinders even back in the, you know, 60s, 70s, and 80s, unless you really built them that are putting out the power some of this shit is today. You know, I mean, not that I'm pro any brand, but, you know, did you ever hear of a car being manufactured in mass production that can put out 800 horsepower from the fucking factory and come with a warranty back then? Hell no. Our fastest car in the freaking 80s was the Regal Grand National, the GNX, fastest road production car made. And, you know, after that was the Corvette, and then the IROC Zs and the Trans Am Turbo editions. You know, those were the cars, even the 5.0 Mustang, and those things only put out 225 horsepower, I think, at their peak of the 80s. Now they're putting out, like, from the factory with the new version of the 5.0, this puts out 490 horsepower and 540 foot-pounds of torque. And it's funny because people can barely drive 200 horsepower cars, and now they're going out and buying 500 horsepower cars, and they're crashing them into trees, crowds, and light poles. No, this is not a message to get rid of muscle cars. In fact, I'm very pissed off that Mopar went the way they did with the electric Charger and now the V6 model that's coming out. But I digress. Anyways, again, messages: don't believe this side, don't believe that side. Nobody's going to change their mind. People got to find a common ground. They got to come together, because otherwise shit's not going to change. And I guarantee you that when shit gets worse, you're going to see people unify. But right now, it's all about ego, and people are not ready to have their ego shattered on either side. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Sorry I got rambly. I get a little wordy like this, and you know, would I love to talk more? Sure. I just don't have the reason to comment all the time. Sometimes I just let a lot of shit build up, and then I just fucking unload. And you know, I used to call myself the angry middle-aged man, and now that technically I'm a senior citizen according to AARP, once you cross 50, now I'm just the angry old fuck, like my grandfather was when I grew up. Oh, you young whippersnappers! You know I walked to school 20 freaking miles one way. And I'm like, oh God. I was like, if you walked to school 20 miles one way, Grandpa, I said, you'd still be walking. I said, you wouldn't even have gotten to school before school ended. I said, considering the average human can walk 1 mile in 15 minutes. 20 miles? Come on. Anyways, America, seriously, find some common ground here. Because if you don't, man, we're going to tear ourselves apart. And, I'm at the point that, like, yeah, fuck it, bring the Civil War on, but do you really want to be into something prolonged just because you want to own one side over the other? Just asking. Something to think about. Anyways, thanks again for tuning in. Have yourself a great weekend. Or, no. I guess it's a great work week because it's Sunday night now. Anyways, I'm going to shut up. See you later. Bye.